Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the flight past and air display will now commence. Today's flight past consists of 4 Hawk Mark 120 from 85 common flights, Air Force Base. Information is given by the unit's officer command, Lieutenant Colonel S. Lewin. Call sign.
I see two feet.
This means that Major CHO can lead an entire formation into a combat zone, as well as training new fighter pilots in all aspects. The formation call sign today is Gannet, after the Gannet bird on the 85 Combat Flying School unit badge, a homage to the unit's weapons school origins in Langebaan. Today's aerobatic display will be by Major Rian Fenter, call sign Kane, also in the Hawk Mark 120 aircraft, proudly painted in the South African Air Force colors. Ladies and gentlemen, Gannet formation. Kane will now set up for the air display. The display will be approximately 5 minutes long. During the display, the aircraft will reach a top speed of approximately 1,000 kilometers per hour, with a maximum G-force of 7G and a fuel burn of around 50 liters per minute. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your right, coming in, Major Fenter, Kane. As you can see, our beautiful South African flag colours proudly displayed on our Hawk Mark 120 as he pitches up for the 90-270, a positioning manoeuvre allowing him to gain altitude in order to perform these high-speed manoeuvres. He'll slowly come down from the left, rolling into a double aileron roll, pitching up for a half Cuban 8. Ladies and gentlemen, from the east, Kane. As he pitches up, he'll roll inverted, thereafter completing the rest of the loop. This maneuver is known as a half Cuban 8. He'll then reposition the aircraft to come overhead again, doing an aileron roll into an inverted fly past. At this point, the pilot is experiencing between -1 and -2 Gs, with all of the blood rushing to his head. Here comes Major Fenter. The Hawk now pitches up as he does another roll, going into a wing over, the positioning maneuver. This allows the aircraft to build up altitude and speed as he pitches up for another loop. The apex of the loop is about 6,000 foot above ground. He'll be wanting to make sure that this apex is reached in order to complete the maneuver safely. Here for the loop. It's important to remember that all of these aerobatics being performed today are merely displaying the Hawk's ability to maneuver in a combat scenario. Outperforming an adversary's aircraft is crucial to survivability and mission success. Next up, Kane will demonstrate the aircraft's turning circle. Embrace the sound of thunder from the north as Kane executes a steep turn. During this maneuver, a pilot is experiencing maximum G-force. For the Hawk, between 6 to 8 Gs, ensuring that the blood remains in his head in order to combat these Gs. And giving us a beautiful display of the South African Air Force colours. Major Fenter is now completing a wing over into a vertical roll for his exit. Major Rian Fenter is a Hawk pilot attack instructor, the highest qualification awarded to a SAF fighter pilot. He's the current low-level display pilot and the unit training commander at 85 Combat Flying School. He was born in Polokwane, Limpopo, and is married with no children. Major Fenter has 900 Hawk flying hours and 1,300 total military flying hours. Coming over to say his final farewell, Major Rian Kane Fenter.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the fly past and air display. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the final compliment. Military spectators are to salute on the command national salute, and civilian male spectators are to remove their headdress. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Freedom Day celebration parade. Thank you for your attendance and enjoy the rest of your day.
Good one! Man ready! Time right! Quick march!
President Ramaphosa, viva! Halala Mpumalanga, halala! Thank you very much. Welcome, President Ramaphosa. You are still going to be welcome officially. But we are now going to start the formal program here after a beautiful program from the South African National Defence Force under the leadership of Minister Thandi Modise. Halala, Minister Modise, halala. Halala Mbogoto, halala. We will now sing the national anthem and the AU anthem as we commence our official program for Freedom Day today. Happy Freedom Day, Mpumalanga, happy! Happy Freedom Day, Mpumalanga, happy! National anthem, please. Oh, Silkulin. Bengikuphi mina? Please, can we do it again? Thank you very much. We may all be seated. Something is telling me that we sang it twice. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, ministers and deputy ministers here present, members of the diplomatic corps, our traditional leadership with us today, civil society, business leaders, members of the media, good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to a free people. We won't waste any time. We'll proceed with our program. Before we start anything, our program, we will have our Premier welcoming us, and thereafter we will go to Albert Luthuli Primary School. The learners who are going to talk to us today will be addressed by them. We'll hear when that time comes. The Premier, the acting Premier, is MEC Thandi Shongwe. She is going on behalf of the Premier to make us feel at home, because we aren't at the moment, until somebody says so.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Your Excellency, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Natim Teto, and other ministers that are in our midst. Members of Parliament and members of provincial legislatures, executive mayors, especially the executive mayor of this municipality, Mr. Masilela, as well as the district mayor, Umamuleya Mabuza, all councillors that are with us today, the chairperson of the Provincial House of Traditional Leaders, Inkosi Ngomane, the leadership of the African National Congress, led by the chairperson, Comrade Mandla Ndlovu, and other leaders of political parties that are here today. The community of this municipality, Steve Tswete, Sanbonan, Lochan, Program Director, it is with an overwhelming sense of pride that I welcome you all on this auspicious day as we commemorate the birth of our democratic dispensation. We are truly honored as the province of Mpumalanga to host the 28th commemoration of Freedom Day, which marked a significant turning point in the history of our country. Not only did South Africans of all races and creeds participate in a historical election that restored the dignity of the oppressed majority. This day also marked the burial of a divided nation and rekindled a nation that will, like a phoenix, rise from the ashes of apartheid. By the placement of an X on a ballot paper, we showed the world that justice, freedom, and dignity will always prevail over oppression, poverty, and discrimination. Program Director, it is befitting that we commemorate Freedom Day under the theme of consolidating our democratic gains in the year of unity and renewal. In the recent past, our nation has encountered significant challenges from elements who wish to undermine the progress of our democratic dispensation and regress in our efforts to attain the ideals of the national democratic revolution. That we may have been able to overcome those challenges without affecting the stability of the country is a testimony of the strong foundation of our democracy. As we welcome you in our beautiful province, the place of the rising sun, we hope that you will enjoy the splendor of our tourism offerings as means and efforts to boost our efforts to grow our economy in the province. As we commemorate our freedom, we remember those that are still victims of the social scourge of gender-based violence. We take this opportunity to remind the perpetrators of GBVF that their conduct reduces the gains of our democracy and is a scar to our communities. We will leave no stone unturned in delivering justice to the victims. As the province, we support the President's call and efforts to fight the scourge of gender-based violence in all its forms and shapes at all levels. Just as Utata Nelson Mandela gave us hope when he said, "It is our joint responsibility to ensure that freedom reigns and that the sun never sets on such a glorious human achievement." We note that we celebrate this event at a time when our sister provinces experienced serious floods which resulted to loss of life, missing people, and serious damage of infrastructure. We convey our condolences and our sympathy to those provinces and the leadership. On behalf of the Premier of the province, Umama Urifile Mtsweni-Tsipane, who could not be with us here today because of ill health, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this province of us, which is full of diverse and full of culture and heritage. We are all welcomed.
Thank you very much, Premier Malibongwe. Can we give her another round of applause? We are now going to listen to Chief Albert Luthuli School, Eguruleni. They have a message to us today.
Look how far we came. These are South African African journey. The legacy lives with us, generation after generation. Africa was born in us. Our path is clear. Our history, our leaders have paved the way for us to unite in forces that bring change in South Africa, to teach, to live better, to position women and men to fight against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is a threat to life. It takes away the fundamental right to life, liberty, security, and dignity. Gender-based violence is one-sided violence that is perpetuated by a certain gender. It creates inequality, discrimination, and it kills your physical and mental integrity. Gender-based violence must not be a norm. It must not be a sign of love and care. We must fight against poverty, extortion, exploitation, human trafficking, teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, crime, and all forms of discrimination against one by another.
That we share in our diverse cultures and identities and make our nation non-racial, non-sexist, and to qualify in the family of nations.
As a new dawn ushered in this day, the 27th April 1994, few of us could suppress the welling of emotion as we were reminded of the terrible past from which we come from as a nation, the great possibilities that we now have, and the bright future that beckons us. So we assemble here today and in other parts of the country to mark a historic day in the life of our nation. I owe my being to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glades, the rivers, the deserts, the trees, the flowers, the seeds, and the ever-changing seasons that define the face of our native land. This Nobel Peace Prize is awarded to Chief Albert Zituli from the Republic of South Africa. Quite long ago, my forebears extended a hand of friendship to the people of Europe when they came to that continent. What happened to that hand of friendship? Only history can say. It is inevitable that in working for freedom, some individuals and some families have to take the lead and suffer. The road to freedom is by the cross. For men to be whole, you should participate in issues that affect this community. I believe that we all can do our best, whatever the difficulties are, in appreciation of this freedom South Africa. Development is freedom, and beyond freedom is self-determination. I am no more a communist than Dr. Verwoerd himself. What is more, he is a fascist and I am not. Fail and prevail in hearing.
On 10 April 1993, Chris Tembisile was shot dead on his driveway from his home in Bosberg. The man who shot him was arrested, and he said he had killed him because he didn't want the member of the Communist Party to be the president of South Africa.
A wise man, full of prejudice and hate, came to our country and committed a deed so foul that our whole nation seemed from the brink of disaster.
As the president of the PAC, Sobukwe had called all black South Africans on that day to leave their passports at home, walk to the nearest police station, and demand arrest.
Enough is enough! We demand arrest! Enough is enough! We demand arrest! Enough is enough! We demand arrest!
Your worship, we believe in one race, only the human race.
We believe in one race, only the human race.
To which we belong. The history of that race is a long struggle. We would have betrayed the human race if you hadn't done our share. We stand for equal rights for all individuals. And I am not afraid for consequences.
I am not afraid for consequences. I am not afraid for consequences. I am not afraid for consequences.
Press speech with Oliver Reginald Tambo.
In the name of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, I, Oliver Reginald Tambo, declare this year as the Year of the Woman and charge the democratic and patriotic force of our country with the task of joining and mobilizing to unite in struggle. The women's place is in the battlefront of our struggle. We do a special task this year to organize and mobilize the women's force, powerful, active, and united force for a revolutionary change.
We, the women of South Africa, wives and mothers, working women and housewives, Africans, Indians, Europeans, and colors, hereby declare our aim of striving for the renewal of all laws, regulation, convention, and customs that discriminate against us as women, and that deprive us in any way of our inherent rights, to the advantages, responsibilities, and opportunities that society offers to any population. Equality for women. We resolve to struggle for the removal of laws and customs that deny African women the right to own, inherit, or unless property. We resolve to work for a change in the laws of marriage, such as the one amongst our African, Malay, and Indian people, which have the interest of placing wives in the position of legal succession to husbands and giving husbands the power to spoil of wives, property, and dictate to them in all matters affecting them and their children. I, Lillian Gold, I do not want men who are scared under their trousers. If they do not want to act, let us women exchange comments with them. I, Sophie Teresa Williams de Breyer, women emancipation has not become a reality yet. There's been all sorts of good things that have come to the women because of what we have started and because of what the women before us started. I, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, I am the product of the masses of my country and the product of my enemies. Amanda! This life is not for yourself. Kill the spirits of self and do not live about your people, but live with them. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustice of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have helped to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this constitution as the supreme law of the republic, so as to heal the division of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice and fundamental human rights, lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people, and every citizen is equally protected by law, improve the quality of life of all citizens, and free the potential of each person. And I am an advocate, politician, businesswoman, I am the Gauteng Premier, public protector. I am the Minister of Finance. I am the Minister of Basic Education. I am the Minister of Transport. I am the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. And I am the President of South Africa.
Ezandleni. Thank you very much. Our today and our future. It has to start from the foundation. And this is what, as government, we are striving for. Informed youth. We are building an active citizenry. People who know where we come from. And because if they know where we come from, they will appreciate where we are and where we are heading to. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, a round of applause for the Luthuli Primary School. To our acting Premier MEC Thandi Shongwe, His Excellency President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, ministers and deputy ministers here present, members of the diplomatic corps, our district mayor, Ms. Mabuza, distinguished guest members of the media, fellow South Africans. We have gathered here to celebrate and honor those patriots and the progressive international community who contributed in our struggle for us to secure this freedom we enjoy today. We celebrate this day under the theme, consolidating our constitutional democratic gains. In so doing, we are reflecting on the path we have traversed so far, and we are reminding ourselves not to falter, but to consolidate the gains we have achieved so far and advance the cause. However, mine today is just to make a few remarks as a way to set the context for the 2022 commemoration, as well as to invite the President to address us, and I shall do so momentarily. Honorable President, as we celebrate and commemorate this day, we should also pause and stand in solidarity, follow your footsteps as you did with our fellow compatriots in the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, Northwest and Eastern Cape, owing to the devastation caused by the recent floods. We welcome your efforts, President, with your government, the relief that is underway, and notes with appreciation the undertaking to mobilize skills, experience, and technical expertise within the state and beyond in ensuring that the relief effort will be corruption-proof. Compatriots, despite the many fissures and missteps along the way, since embarking on this journey after the democratic breakthrough of 1994, as we're reminded by our learners here, it would be dishonest to not also recount some of the visible gains made in this journey. Amongst these gains, we can cite the following: the universal access to basic education. I know sometimes we take these things for granted, but they were not here before. The majority of our learners never benefited from government, and I think we should always bear that in mind. Funding access to higher education for those who pass grade 12, even those who have not passed grade 12, still have a chance to access higher education through TVET colleges. Provision of social grants to the elderly disabled and the child support grant until 18 years of age. We are steadily making progress in building social housing in areas closer to where people work, consistent to the Freedom Charter, injunction that there shall be houses, security and comfort. The democratic state established after the victory of the revolution shall ensure the right of people to live where they choose, to be decently housed, and bring up their families in comfort and security. On the sporting front, we have phenomenal progress. We have won 3 Rugby World Cups since 1994. We have won African Cup of Nations. We are competing in the world stage where our athletes are raising the South African flag high. The transformation of sport is deepening despite the challenges we face. These are amongst the gains that are brought about by this freedom that we should consolidate and defend. Mr. President, it is for that same reason that we deemed it appropriate that we celebrate and commemorate the 2022 Freedom Month and Freedom Day in particular today, under the theme Consolidating Our Constitutional Democratic Gains. Without much ado, it is now my pleasure to invite His Excellency the President, Singo Vererambeu Ramaphosa Muposa Miseve. People are listening to you, and they are ready.
Let us be seated, please. Sanbona. Dumela. Abshe. Molweni. Dimasiar, Lochani, Program Director, Minister Natim Tetwa, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, the Acting Premier of our province, the province of the rising sun, Ms. Thandi Shongwe, MECs and MPs and MPLs, the Executive Mayor of Nkangala District, Councillor Leah Mabuza, the Mayor of the municipality here, Mr. Masilela, councillors, Comrade Mandla Ndlovu, the chairperson of the governing party, the ANC in this province, and leaders of various political parties and civil society formations, Nkosi Ngomani, and other traditional leaders present here, religious leaders in our midst, General Rudzani Mapwanya, the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, and members of the military command, the leadership of and officers of the South African Police Service, the Director General at national government level, Ms. Phindi Baleni, and other DGs and DDGs, as well as government officials here in Mpumalanga, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the media, and Madam President, who was standing over there, and her cabinet. I can see I now have competition from a very young age. And fellow South Africans, happy Freedom Day. It's a wonderful time to be here in Mpumalanga to celebrate Freedom Day in the manner that we do. 28 years ago, just before midnight, on the 26th of April in 1994, the old South African flag was lowered across the country for the last time. This is a flag which for 66 years had been a symbol of repression, a symbol of oppression, a symbol of discrimination, and a symbol of segregation. Moments later, after that flag, the old South African flag was brought down, the flag of the democratic South Africa was raised for the first time. That was a momentous moment. That was when our South Africa was born, a united and free South Africa, a South Africa that represented all of us. The next day, the 27th of April in 1994, a new era dawned as nearly 20 million South Africans went to cast their vote for the first time. We recall the immortal words of President Nelson Mandela on the day he was inaugurated, when he said, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Let freedom reign." Masiphinde, we must never forget this. And say after me, as President Mandela said, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Let freedom reign." Siyabonga. Now here in Middleburg, khona la sikhona, in the old cemetery, is one of the darkest reminders of our divided past. Segregation was enforced, even in death. Bekuthiwa noma sowushonile, i-apartheid ifanele ukuthi ikulandele. Noma sowuse emngcwabeni, emathuneni. English graves, nezabelungu, English graves were separated from Afrikaans graves. I-apartheid le beyinga apply kithi kuphela. Nakubo labelungu bebethi wena you talk English, wena you talk Afrikaans, as though uthi noma sowushonile uzoba sowukhuluma i-Afrikaans ne-English. Whites were buried on one side, and blacks, Indians, and coloreds were buried on the other side. Such was the inhumanity that was apartheid. Never should it ever, ever happen again in South Africa. We will never allow it to happen in this beautiful land. Now, in Mpumalanga, like many other parts of our country, was a site of struggle against centuries of oppression of one by another. In 1959, the slave-like conditions of potato farm workers in Betal spurred the successful countrywide potato boycott that was led by the South African Congress of Trade Unions, ISACTU. ISACTU le yabakhona kungakabi nekhosathu. In Nelspruit, In 1957, our Imbokodo, the brave women of this province, led resistance to the past laws. Bathi omama bethu nosisi bethu bathi ngeke size silithwale pasi. Bala. These women attacked the car of a magistrate who had come to enforce past laws, and they were met by police batons. In fact, I would say they did not attack, bebe shift nje i-direction yayo ukuthi ingahambi kuleyo ndawo. In Standerton, that same year, a group of 914 women marched on the mayor's office to protest against passes and were arrested. Uma City, mama bethu, no sis bethu, no auntie bethu, no gogo bethu, they took up the struggle and fought for our freedom. We see it very clearly here in Mpumalanga. Our people here in Mpumalanga fought for our freedom. We recount this history on Freedom Day, not so much that we want to hold on to the past. We remember those events as a reminder that we are a nation that looks forward and that moves forward. Today in the province of Mpumalanga and across our beautiful land, the people have tasted the fruits of freedom. Despite the many challenges that we face today, challenges of unemployment, challenges of crime, challenges of gender-based violence, and many other challenges. Despite all those many challenges, our people have tasted the fruits of freedom. The quality of life of our citizens has improved from what it used to be under apartheid. In democratic South Africa, 81% of people live in formal housing. That was not the case before 1994. 9 out of 10 South Africans do have access to clean water, and more than 85% have access to electricity, despite the challenges that we have with our electricity generation. In democratic South Africa, basic education and health care is no longer a privilege of a few, but it is now available to all. When our forebears said, "The doors of learning shall be open in the Freedom Charter," this is what they had envisaged would happen, that our children would be able to go to school and to learn and to be as enlightened as these young learners from Ekurhuleni School. 96% of children of school-going age are in school today. 2/3 of those learners attend schools where they no longer have, their parents no longer have to pay school fees. At tertiary level, Emma University, Nasema College, we have been able to provide young South Africans to study through the support that they get from our government, where our government spends billions of rands on NSFAS to enable our young people to achieve the dreams that they want. This was denied to their parents, to their grandparents who never had this opportunity. Here in Mpumalanga, more than 600,000 children from poor households receive a meal at school through the National School Nutrition Program. The program is so broad, it is so extensive in that more than 9 million learners every school day across the length and the breadth of South Africa, they get a free meal at school. Okay, why bona pinto enjalo? Now, this is what is happening in our country, which was not the case prior to 1994. Of course, much more still needs to be done. In democratic South Africa, people have expanding opportunities to realize their potential. In a free South Africa, a young woman like Angela Khothatso from Tembisile Hani District Municipality could overcome difficult circumstances to become Mpumalanga's top performing matriculant for 2021, achieving 100%. Now, what did she achieve? Ukhutatsu. She achieved 100% in mathematics and physical science. In a free South Africa, government support has enabled an aspirant farmer like Unjabulo Mbokani from Emelo to realize her dream, helping her along her journey. Unjabulo used to sell fish and chips from a street stand, and today she is a successful commercial maize farmer. Now, in democratic South Africa, social grants provide a lifeline and a source of income to millions, 18 million of indigent people. Uma sesifaka nalena enye 11 million, 350. We are talking about almost 30 million South Africans get grants every month from this government. Now, in free South Africa, we have recognized the injustices of the past and are implementing a program to restitute and to redistribute land to those who were dispossessed of their birthright. The land issue is still a burning issue amongst many South Africans, and we are addressing it. The South Africa of today is democratic and open. Government is based on the will of the people, and every citizen is equally protected by the law. The people's voices are heard, and their right to be part of any decision that affects their lives is protected. In our free society, anyone can approach our courts for recourse, for the enforcement of their rights, and to challenge any executive decision. If any South African feels that the decision that has been taken by the government, even the president, that South African is able to go to court and challenge that decision. And a number of South Africans often do so, and they win. It means that this is a country that is governed by the rule of law, not by the rule of the president or the rule of the government. It is the rule of law. Indawo yomthetho le. Sithi umthetho mawusebenze usebenzele isizwe sakithi. In democratic South Africa, neither government, employers, or individuals can discriminate against someone on the basis of their sexual orientation. Same-sex couples can marry, they can adopt children, and inherit from their partners. Kuyenzeka la eSouth Africa. Akwenzeki kwamanye amazwe. In South Africa today, nobody can be discriminated against or lose their employment because of their HIV or any health status. In democratic South Africa, gender discrimination in any form is outlawed, and women married under customary law enjoy rights that they were denied in the past. In South Africa today, people are protected against the denial of basic services and against the arbitrary eviction from their homes by landlords. Farm workers and labor tenants are also protected against eviction from farms, an issue that has a painful legacy here in Mpumalanga. In South Africa today, there is freedom of belief and religion in communities, in schools, and places of higher learning, as well as in workplaces. In the past, African cultures were looked down upon, and African languages were denigrated. Bawuthi mawukhuluma isiZulu, noma isiSuthu, noma isiVenda, bebekubhekela phansi. Today, our languages are applauded, and we can speak our languages in parliament, wherever, because our constitution has given us those rights. Today, all South Africans are free to practice their cultures. All our 11 national languages enjoy equal recognition, and there are efforts underway to make sign language an additional national language. Njengoba ekhuluma nje, this we want it to be a national language so that we can understand nathi. Our independent courts protect citizens against arbitrary use of power and can compel government to enforce their rights. And our government respects the judgments and injunctions of our courts. We have laws to protect against gender-based violence, to uphold the rights of children, and to empower persons with disabilities. Despite all these achievements, and despite much progress, we are not yet where we want to be. We are not where we want to be. And many people today will be saying, what is this freedom worth? Yes, they are right to ask themselves that question. What are we celebrating? Yes, they are right to ask that question. But we have achieved much. Much has changed in our country. But we also admit that we are not yet where we want to be. We want to be much better than where we are right now. We want to be much further than where we are. We want to be where the Freedom Charter, a document that underpins our constitutional architecture, where the Freedom Charter wanted us to be, is where we want to be. Having endured decades of injustice and hardship, in 1994, we were infused with hope and expectation. We held a vision of a promised land of freedom, equality, and shared prosperity. But like the ancient Israelites of the Exodus, somewhere along the line, yes, we realize that things have not worked as well as they should have in taking us much further in terms of where we want to be. Where do we want to be? As I said, where the Freedom Charter wants us to be. And that is the journey that we have embarked upon. That is the journey that is now firm to take us exactly where we want to go. Yes, South Africans have shown that they are determined to restore the vision that they had in 1994. And that vision has been blurred a little bit over time because there are a number of other developments that have come in. There have been forward movement and backward movement, but much as we have had diversionary events along the way, such as corruption, such as state capture, such as other policies that may not have taken us where we want to be, we are determined to rebuild that vision. And we are in the process of rebuilding that vision to make sure that it takes us where we want to be. In recent years, the ruinous apartheid inheritance of poverty and unemployment has been worsened by global economic shocks, a devastating pandemic, COVID-19, and also a number of our own shortcomings. Gender-based violence, substance abuse, and other societal ills have become rampant in our communities. Crime and violence, as I said, is eating up our society. We can only defeat crime if we work together as families, as communities, as community leaders, as faith communities, and leaders, and as individuals. On matters such as crime, Bagiti, where we live, many of us know who are the criminal elements. We know who are the thieves. We know who are the rapists. We know who are the people who are participating in cable theft. We know them. And when I say it is now behoven up to us as communities to work together with our police so that we can root out crime, we can root out all these very bad tendencies. We know who are the people who sell the drugs. We know who are the people who are doing all these things. We need now to work together through our community policing forums, through our various structures. This is what we need to do. 48 years ago, one of Mpumalanga's most famous sons, Provincial Masekela, first released his famous song about the pain of black men and women in this land of Africa. He sang of the coal train that comes from Namibia, Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique, Lesotho, Botswana, Eswatini, and all the hinterlands of Southern and Central Africa. He sang the song about men constricted to dig deep in the belly of the earth for almost no pay, far from their families and loved ones that many of them may never see again. The lyrics of Stimela were about the lives of all the laborers on whose backs this country was built. They resound deeply today. We are confronting a new menace, a really new challenge of violence against our brothers and sisters from many of those African countries that Provincial Masekela sang about. We have seen it in many parts of the country in recent weeks, and it is deeply troubling. There can be no doubt that we must work urgently as South Africans to resolve the issues of illegal immigration and the impact that it is having on our economy and on our society. But I must say here today, there can never be any justification for us to perpetrate acts of violence against people who have come here to our country. For those who seek refuge from persecution and have legitimate grounds, and for any who have entered our country legally and have legal right to be here, they must find South Africa a welcoming place. On this Freedom Day, we must ask ourselves, what type of society do we want to be? We are a people who respect the sacrifices of those who came before us. We take great pride in our nationhood and in the national symbols of our country, including our national flag. We are a people of compassion, of empathy, and we have a very big heart and a very good spirit as a people. One need only look at the great acts of charity and humanity that are being extended to the victims of the devastating floods in parts of KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape, in the Northwest, as well as the fires in Langa Township in Cape Town. As we mourn the many lives that have been lost, the unity and solidarity in the reconstruction efforts reminds us once more of the values that makes us a great people. We act in solidarity. We act with compassion. And we always are a people who are on the side of those who are suffering, of those who are in pain. And this is what we must do as South Africans. And it is on this note that I want us to pause for a minute and pay our respects to our people who have died in KwaZulu-Natal, those who have also died in the Eastern Cape, and those who are suffering because of the rains in Northwest, and those who suffer because of the fire in Cape Town. Let us rise and observe a minute of silence. Thank you. Singahlala phansi. Now we need to ask ourselves what type of a nation we want to be. We have seen, even in KZN, as our help has been delivered to those who need it most, where some of our people have gone out to start helping themselves even when they did not need to do so. And some who have been pilfering and even stealing that help. And we have seen how, as a nation, we have been getting involved and getting sucked into all this type of behavior. I forever remember how when we started the 350 grants, we found that 30,000 civil servants who get paid every month had also applied to get this help that we were giving to people who are unemployed. And it is when these types of things happen that we need to ask ourselves, ukuthi singabantu abanjani na? Ukuthi ukuziphatha kahle into esingayazi na? We need to ask ourselves about our ethos as a people. We must ask ourselves what is needed to get us back on the path to the land promised by our Constitution. We must ask ourselves what our own individual contribution must be to building the society that we want. We are a people who want to live in comfort, in security, not for ourselves alone, but also for our neighbors. These are the kind of values that we need as we consolidate our democratic gains to rebuild our country. Overcoming poverty, unemployment, and inequality are our foremost considerations. Through the plan that we have devised, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, our government continues to work to create a conducive environment for those who have money to invest in our economy, to invest in our local government, to ensure that we see businesses in our local government. In return, it is our expectation that businesses should step up their investment in those communities and in our human capital for the sake of developing our country. As government at local and provincial and national level, we must consolidate our efforts to deliver on our promises to the people of South Africa by managing public resources properly and wisely, and by taking a firm stand and line against corruption. Our people are tired of corruption. They want municipalities that are going to work for them. They want municipalities that will provide good services. They want leaders who are not going to steal their money. They want leaders who will deploy the resources, the public resources, to provide good services. That is what you all want. Is that not so? As communities, therefore, we need to work together and with our various other institutions, as I said, community policing forums, to make our areas safer and crime-free. We should not tolerate the abuse of women and children. Umam Shongwe, our acting premier, spoke very eloquently about the scourge of gender-based violence. And she speaks about it as a woman because the women of our country are subjected to abuse, they are subjected to violence, and violence that leads to their death as well. And we say this must come to an end. We want gender-based violence to end, and the men of our country to respect the women of South Africa. Now, let us not also allow discrimination against persons who are living with disabilities. And it is for this reason that as a government, we've taken a clear decision that we will create economic opportunities and job opportunities for people who are living with disabilities. Let us also end all acts of hatred that are directed at the LGBTQI+ community, where we direct hatred against them, and some of them are even killed. Let us take a stand against those who want to sow division and anarchy in our communities by prosecuting nationals from other African countries. If we have evidence of criminal activity, let us report those to the police, and we should not take the law into our own hands. Although we are in a new phase of our management of COVID-19, it is still very much alive and it is still very much with us. Now, with the winter months approaching, let us take particular care of ourselves and those around us by getting vaccinated, getting our booster shots if needed, and by observing the public health protocols. I have been hearing and reading in the news that the spate of infections is beginning to go up once again. Now, I will say to those who have not been vaccinated, go out in your large numbers to get vaccinated. We are seeing a high rate of rise in infections in other countries. Many countries around the world, a number of countries are already seeing COVID-19 infections going up to a point where other countries have locked down cities. In China, for instance, they've locked down a number of cities. Nobody is allowed to move out of their homes. And they've done so to try and control the level of infections. Now, we say though, if we are vaccinated, it may never be necessary for us to go to that extent. And that is why I continue preaching the message that let us go out, those who have not yet vaccinated, must hambe siyo vaccinator. Vaccination is free, vaccination is easy, it is quick, and it saves lives. You ask me because I went through it, and because I was vaccinated, I think that prevented me even from being hospitalized. So ngitige bantu bagiti, I will continue calling on all of us to go and get vaccinated. As President Mandela said in his inauguration speech, there is no easy road to freedom. Much as we have attained our freedom, there is still so much work to be done. The task of nation building and national reconciliation must be seen as an ongoing task. It requires unity of all of us. None of us should be acting alone to achieve the success that we need. We need to be working together. In the end, Bantu Bagiti, we are a resilient nation. We have proven time and time again that we can rise above our differences, that we can come out strong in the midst of adversities and also difficulties. Let us take the responsibility, one and all, to continue building this South Africa, the South Africa that was so well promised by our Freedom Charter and by our Constitution. Let us take the responsibility within our families, in our communities, in our workplaces and places of study, and in our various places of worship. It is our collective responsibility to continue building this nation, much as we are going through challenging times. You know, the challenging times we have faced in just the past 2 years have just been unbelievable. COVID-19 and the rise in unemployment, when 2 million people lost their jobs because of COVID-19, something that happened all over the world as well. After that, as we thought that we could recover, the July unrest that gripped KZN and Gauteng. And as we thought that we could get out of that, our unemployment figures kept going up. And as we were saying, we think we can now rise because the economy is beginning to show signs of rising. Then the floods happened, devastating our two provinces, Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, as well as Northwest. And that is going to set us back because we now have to spend a lot of money, billions, rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding lives, and rebuilding livelihoods in our various provinces. Now that takes us back. Now what this moment needs is for us, collectively as South Africans, not to feel and sound defeated, but to say, yes, we are equal to this challenge. We will take on this challenge as we rebuild our country, as we rebuild our economy, so that we can reposition our economy to deliver a better life going forward. Let us take responsibility in our daily interactions with our fellow countrymen and women. Let us build bridges of tolerance and understanding that are the bedrock of our nationhood. We need to continue holding the flag of our freedom high. This freedom was fought for, and many people died so that we can achieve this freedom. Many people sacrificed their own personal freedom, like Utatu Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for 27 years, Utatu Oliver Tambo, who was outside the country for almost 30 years, and many other people who sacrificed, who the young children were talking about. It is our responsibility as South Africans never to give up. It is our responsibility to forever look forward and to ensure that this country moves forward. May God bless our country and protect her people. Kosi sigelela iAfrika, Modzimu ashidupadze Afrika Chipemba. Ngiyabonga.
Yaula Mzansi Afrika, yaula! Yaula Mzansi Afrika, yaula! Ichathala kaloku madoda kusimalanga! Ichathala kaloku madoda isikhobisa kweli lizwe! Nami ndikade ndigefezela madoda ndiyovaksina kusasa! Yaula Mzansi Afrika, yaula! Yaula Mzansi Afrika, yaula! Masilibambe nikatoni mzansundu! Masilibambe nikatoni mzwasa Afrika! Kaloku zonke izizwe zimamele madoda! Masiwubambe wonke umyalelo kamongameli! Kaloku seyimpilo zethu!